Greetings and good evening and welcome back to Locking Horns. I'm Split. I have Jeff tonight as always, and joining us this evening as well is brother Zed. And we will be getting back into the Havamal once again. Another lengthy discussion on however many we can get through. We last left off with knowing when to leave, knowing when it's time to end the day, knowing when it's time to leave a guest's house, knowing when it's time to finish, knowing when it's time to stop, knowing when it's time to retire. Now we move on to a section of stanzas that talks about the foolish man, the unwise man, or woman. And I think that this is going to be a bit interesting. Let's get into it. And might change things up a little bit today. I'm going to be reading from Thorpe. I think Jeff's going to be reading from Larrington. And you have the bellows. All right. So stanza 22. A miserable man and ill-conditioned sneers at everything. One thing he knows not, which he ought to know, that he is not free from faults. This is looking in on oneself. Whether it be a good man, bad man, doesn't matter. If you can retain the ability to self-reflect, look at your own words and actions, and were they good, were they bad? This is just like, you have to, judge yourself in a way. That's kind of what I get from it. What's Larrington say?
Larrington uses a different word to describe the man. He's a wretched man, of an evil disposition, the one who makes fun of everything. We know people like this. They're not long in our association. We don't want those people around us.
Right.
He doesn't know the one thing he ought to know, that he himself is not devoid of faults. Arrogant, wretched. Wretched has, for me, it denotes somebody who's not in a good condition in life. They don't have what they need to live a good life. They're wretched. Yeah. It could be a poor individual or poor in spirit. It could be someone who doesn't have, even though he wants to have or she wants to have, but they don't have. They don't have a sense of humor. They don't have certain talents. They don't have the ability to be admired for whatever talents they do have, because they complain all the time, or they complain about other people all the time. But it's a constant thing of negativity. These are the energy vampires. These are the ones that come into our lives and don't add anything to the joy of the moment that we are seeking.
Those that are constantly riddled with excuses because they can't do this, they can't do that. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't.
You won't use what gifts you have, or you won't recognize your limitations. We all have them. To know your limitations frees you. Now I can focus on the things that I am good at.
Right.
I know I can't do that. I'm not going to waste any more time trying to do that. But this I'm really good at. I'm going to pursue this. This is recognition of your own gifts. Now, we have stated from the very beginning, it's important to us that we not only bring you the Havamal, but we bring you the Havamal in other translations, because each of them adds a nuance. Each and every one of these has a nuance to it. Zed, you have the bellows. What does that one say? Stanza 22.
A paltry man and poor of mind, at all things ever mocks, for never he knows what he ought to know, that he is not free from faults. Which to me speaks of someone maybe of ill-minded, poor manners, I would say narcissistic, egotistical, maybe judging of others, but never self-reflecting or have enough insight to see what he has that is in the negative. I would dare say my younger brother is exactly like that.
Take it personally.
That's right. So I mean, it's for the most part, the three translations that we've read here, it is the first part of that stanza that differs a little bit in its verbiage. But either way, we have miserable, evil-minded, ill-conditioned, paltry, poor of mind. All of these kind of focus in on the same kind of characteristics that quite honestly, we frown upon.
And we all know people like this.
Yeah.
Every one of us do. And we all have a tendency to, even though we attract the rascally people in life, we seek the people that are independently minded, the ones who have rare gifts. We like those people because they're funny to us, or we're funny to them, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But they create interesting moments in time. But those people who are always bringing problems with them never contribute anything to the goodwill that's created, our frith, our humming,
Right.
and never add anything to that. Those are not people that we want around us. They create issues, whether they be family members or of the family, whether they be of the folk or associated with the folk. We don't want those people in our
It
lives.
seems to be like the inability to contribute.
That's it. They're always taking away from, not adding to.
And the reason for that is worded out in the second part of the stanza, where
Yes.
he doesn't know what he ought to know, that he is not free from faults. If you can't see that you've got your own problems, then who are you to help someone with their problems?
Exactly.
23. A foolish man is all night awake, pondering over everything. He then grows tired, and when morning comes, all the lament as before.
This has been said in other words by other people. Mine begins the same way. The foolish man lies awake all night and worries about things. He's tired out when the morning comes and everything's just as bad as it was.
So if you can't find it in yourself to act on the pondering of the, what you did that day that may have been ill-advised or wrong, or maybe viewed by others as wrong, if you stay awake all night worrying about things that you cannot change, then the next morning you're in the same position. You're not of a mind to move forward, to try to fix, to try to repair.
Worse off.
You're just worse off, and now you're exhausted.
Yeah, let's add that layer to it.
Yeah, and now you have zero energy to put forth in making this day a good one.
What does Bellow say?
The witless man is awake all night, thinking of many things. Careworn is he when the morning comes, and his woe is just as it was.
Careworn.
Witless, foolish. I have done this.
I think
You-
we've all,
I
I
think
think we've
yeah,
all,
I- yeah, I think
had,
we've all
had
done
nights
this.
where we lost some sleep because we were
Stuck
stressing over things or replaying events there where at the time you thought you were making the right decision, but then the words leapt out of your mouth and you're shaming yourself too much for saying something that maybe been
that old phrase, don't be so hard on yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's their own worst critic anyway. I mean, it's something that I try really hard to live by, to try to help motivate myself when I'm starting to feeling like having that melancholy coming about. Is worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but you don't get anywhere.
It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wisdom spoken.
You're staying mobile,
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah, and just and laying awake at night and your brain
Rolling,
going over
yeah.
things. I mean, you're losing sleep, and you can't do anything at the time to fix the problem. I mean,
Right.
sometimes I've had to deal with that just because work stress or whatever. And it's like, you know what? I can't worry about it right now. I'm not going to worry about it right now.
Right.
Today's terminology is anxiety.
Yeah.
I have, not because I had anything to be concerned about, not because I had any worries about the next day, but every event that I've done over the years, I've had a sleepless night the night before. Not because I was worried. I had already gotten everything set up. Everything was ready to go. All I had to do is load up and roll out. And when I got there, I deal with whatever I was going
Right.
to deal with. And at this time, I didn't even know that there would be anything. But there's always something.
Always something.
But we've always had these events, and we've always had these unique situations that come up, and not very seldom were there anything negative or bad about them, just unique situations that come up. But for whatever reason, even though I'm confident and comfortable in what's going to follow, I cannot sleep the night before.
Right.
And this does not benefit me. And I know it doesn't benefit me. And I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to lose any sleep. I don't want to have to think about anything. I can't shut my brain down. And I wish I could shut my brain down.
Just
and
turn it
why
off.
can't I shut my brain
Just turn
down?
it off.
Oh, yeah, just a little
And
switch.
what can I add to my consciousness right now that can relieve me of this situation I'm in, that I know that I'm not going to get any sleep tonight, and I'm getting more anxious because I know I'm not going to get any sleep tonight, and tomorrow it's going to hurt me physically because I'm an old man now, and I can't just keep doing this year after year. And this is when I was in my 50s. So it's never gotten any better. To this day, I don't sleep the night before. And it's foolish, and it's witless, and I recognize that in myself, and I can't do anything to change
as
it.
part of this is not being too hard on yourself. Some of that may just be, dare I say, childlike excitement. Even
There's
like,
that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like
Yeah,
the
you're
kid on
talking
that-
of the Christmas or birthday.
You get a
So
little
shut
touchy.
down.
The reverse of this would be you're the one that's up at 5 a.m. ready to go. Let's get the day going, and that's what the foolish one lacks.
Yeah.
Is okay. This day is done. This day is over. Time to sleep. Let's move on. Tomorrow, it's a new day.
So there's two ways to look at this. One is my last example, which is to say, well, there's no reason for this, but it's on you.
Yeah.
There's no reason for this. I'm not a foolish man. I'm not a witless man. I have everything ready to go. Everything's good. But anxiety has stepped in. I can't control it. It's just the way it is. And it's foolish of me, but I can't control it. The other one is, yeah, you have problems. Yeah, you have issues you're going to have to address. Yeah, you've got a heavy day in front of you. You might as well get a good night's sleep so that you're prepared for whatever eventuality is going to come your way. Easier said than done.
Oh, yeah,
This is one of those stanzas that makes absolute sense to everyone who reads it. Yes, this makes perfect sense. Yet, I cannot control it. I cannot step away from this situation because it is part of who I am, and I know it's foolish.
Yeah. And of course, the circumstances vary from person to person.
Yeah, and then also the more you worry about I can't sleep and you try to concentrate, the harder you try to sleep, the less you're going to sleep.
Brain won't shut down,
Right. Yep. It just
Anxiety.
Yep.
and no good reason for it.
Moving on to 24. A foolish man thinks all who smile upon him to be his friends, yet he feels it not, although they speak ill of him when he sits amongst the clever.
Larrington. The foolish man thinks that everyone is his friend who laughs with him. He doesn't notice, even if they say cruel things about him, when he sits among the wise.
The foolish man, for friends all those who laugh at him will hold. When among the wise he marks it not, though hatred of him they speak.
So I tell you honestly, I have found myself to be this foolish man on many occasions throughout my life, and looking back on it, every one of them has been kind of a learning experience for sure, because each circumstance determines how you react to it, how you think about it, how you adjust from it, how you grow from it. I have been around those that I have considered my friends. I've been around those that I would consider close to me, family. I trust them, I believe in them, but when my back is turned, or I'm sitting with other people, the mockery starts. And you don't find out until later, and then you think, well, are those that speak ill of me truly my friends? Or are those that smile upon me truly my friends? Or am I wrong about both? Are the ones that smile on me just doing so to keep face? Are those ones that speak a mockery of me doing so to grab my attention. So it can go both ways. But you don't surround yourself with people, or you don't continue to surround yourself with the people that are just giving you the show, or just saying the right words in front of you.
Yeah, it's sunshine friends.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You know, they're your friends when the sun's out, but when the night comes, they're as good as an enemy.
Or any foul weather comes, they're quick to turn a cheek.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's the foolish man can also be considered the arrogant man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the arrogant man has a tendency to think that he is all that he thinks he is, and what other people think of him really doesn't matter anyway. But those who can see through the arrogant man and know that majority of what that individual or female, what they have to offer is mostly smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. Mostly there's no substance to it. And people will, even if it's not intentionally cruel, people will say things about that individual. Mm-hmm. And if that individual is wise, as your comments would denote you are, you became aware of your arrogance and how it was perceived. And you became aware of the individuals who were perceiving you in such a way, not knowing the honesty of your emotions, the honesty of your portrayal of yourself. That is ignorance combined with arrogance. And that creates the unwise man, or the foolish man, or even the wretched man or woman. So what we hear here is a lessons in arrogance. We're getting this defined now. As you go through this, you're going to start to see specific trends or intentions with these stanzas. Right now we're talking about the arrogant individual, one who thinks that he's welcome amongst everyone and everyone's applauding him, but then behind their back, as soon as they leave the room, they talk shit about him. You know, well, it's this idiot. Well, it's happened to me.
Yeah, it's happened to me. Yeah,
it's happened to you.
You show up and you act.
We all are possessed of enormous arrogance. Enormous arrogance.
You're not wrong.
Enormous arrogance, but we also have come to the understanding that we don't mind being the foolish man every now and then, because we're part of that, and we'll play not the fool, but we'll play the foolish one to get the laugh, to get the engagement, to
almost get arrested.
Almost get arrested.
Sometimes wiser than others. But in the moment in time, we don't mind taking on that role because we're confident in who we are and who we're with. And that's all part of this too. Now, I know that there have been times when I have been so arrogant that my whatever perception there has been of me is to say, well, he's incredibly stupid and foolish. And they were right in that moment. I was. But it took those people who respected me to come to me to tell me that I was that individual.
You are being foolish.
And because I respected their opinion of me, that helped me to overcome that
and had it
that
not
deficiency within my character.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between those sunshine friends and those who are going to be with you for the long haul,
brothers.
those who are true to you.
Yeah.
Because they will not allow you to continue to be this way. We will talk about each other, but we do it in a way that we lift each other up. Now that's a different thing. Yeah, we'll talk pure crap about each other, diminish each other amongst each other, but we all know that it's all in good fun.
But when we
it's all with a purpose.
And when we give praise,
that's genuine as well.
Yeah.
So those are my interpretations of these as they're coming to us. Every one of them will begin with this man, this man, this man. Wretched, foolish, witless, whatever the case may be. But all of these begin this way. So we're going into character development of a human being, specifically males, but of a human being.
Yeah, and like we've said before, a lot of this can be applied to the female gender as well.
Absolutely.
You take out the word man, you put in the word human, and it applies both ways.
In fact, let's do that. Number 25. The foolish human thinks that everyone is their friend who laughs with them, But then they find, when they come to the assembly of the folk, that they have few to speak on their behalf. Now, all of this is put into the male. Take that away and make it generic. Doesn't change the truth of it.
No. A foolish human thinks all who speak him fair to be his friends. But he will find, if into court he comes, that he has few advocates.
The foolish human, for friends all those who laugh at him will hold, but the truth, when they come to the council, they learn that few will speak in their favor.
All saying exactly the same thing.
And this, I mean, it's seen.
I mean, it's more. It's. I would say. I'm sorry. I didn't. But it seems more the sunshine friend, that not everyone that smiles at you and laughs with you is your friend, and they mean to do you harm or gain advantage. And you shouldn't be as trusting.
Every one of these speaks of arrogance. You're blinded.
Blindness, yeah,
You're
blinded.
blinded to who you. That's what arrogance is.
Yeah.
You're blind to how diminished you are in the eyes of those people around you that see your actions. They hear your words and see your actions, and you've put yourself up on this pedestal that no one's going to honor you on.
The sons of Kvildof, in the presence of King Harald.
Yeah.
In Egil Saga, where you had two brothers, two half-brothers, I think they were, that came to the king and spoke ill of Kvildolf's sons, after Kvildolf's sons had, given King Harald much tribute from their raids and plundering. And yet, aside from the genuine praise given by the sons of Kvildolf to King Harald listened to the sneering, diminishing words of these other two brothers and effectively banished the sons of Kvildolf, pushed them out of his life, almost started a war with them because he thoroughly believed that these brothers were telling him true. They were using the right words in the right situation to bury this man's credibility. Regardless of all the good that they had done for King Harald, it ended badly for the sons of Kvildolf, because he listened to those that spoke ill of them in court.
Yeah, when they weren't there to counter those words.
They didn't have any advocates.
No advocates.
Right.
No matter how good a man or men that they might have been, and whatever their deeds or actions, the purity of their intentions meant nothing.
And
when you get into the assembly of men with power and with the spoken word, and you're not there to counter that spoken word,
right,
then your spoken word becomes mist, becomes smoke.
It's no longer. When you come to court to defend yourself against the allegations, it's going to be really, really hard to counteract or fight against what was spoken against you, because those that have heard those words have already had all this amount of time to ponder on the ill will that was spoken upon you.
And all of this is based on the history of the people that lived in a place and time where they had what they called the things, the gathering of the folk, to settle different disagreements, to solidify laws, or to bring forth marriages. It was a very important event, and it was an annual event in the districts of Scandinavia, and we know more about it with the Althing in Iceland, but all of the districts of Scandinavia,
they all had
Norway
things.
specifically, they had their things. And whoever brought the most people, the most vocal people, the strongest assembly of people, won the argument. Whoever had the last say tended to win the argument. So in this stanza, even though it's somewhat specific to individuals coming into a setting, this can be a whole group of families that come into a situation where they have a grievance, but the other family that they have it against has more members to speak on their behalf, and it's their words that are heard. Either they speak the loudest, or there's more voices to be heard. So the foolish man, the witless man, the arrogant man, all of these individuals speak of someone who is not seeing the bigger picture. You're not observant. You're no matter what your intentions were, they can be perceived by others in any way that they want to be. And now you become the arrogant man. Now you become the foolish man. Now you become the witless man. Even though nothing you did would lend itself to that, but the spoken word can change those things, as you just pointed out, can change those great deeds of yours and diminish them. Because now you weren't there to see them anyway. You only heard about them from someone who's advocating for themselves.
And based on my readings of the sagas, you tended to have a group of people would stay in one place for a whole winter. The amount of time, for let's say, that these brothers had with the king, the amount of time that they could reinforce their accusations, reinforce their naysaying against others. You had 6 months to a year before they could be defended in any way, shape, or form. Those that may be, on the receiving end of the blasphemy, if you would, might be across the ocean in Iceland and not in Norway. You're not going to be able to defend yourself until you can get back there.
And then there's other stories or other allegations that can be made in the meantime that continue to diminish your character in front of the individual who has to make the decision. The assembly of men, it's spoken of several times in the Havamal, will change the perception of the outcome. The assembly of men. And this is the first time that it's brought up in this way, that we speak of the assembly of men. But it is important because everything that's contained within the Havamal speaks to the individual and then the group. So it's the individual, and then it lends to the totality of the behavior of the group. And this lends itself to that. What the group now can bring forth, not just the individual.
This next stanza, as I read it, is we have a modern phrase, being thrown to the fire, where now you have to prove yourself. Oh, you think you know so much? Okay, let's see you do it. From Thorpe, number 26. A foolish man thinks he know everything, yet if placed in unexpected difficulty, but he knows not what to answer, and if the test he is put. All right, let's see what you got. And you're put in a position where, oh crap, now what do I do?
Kind of like some of the modern people like to say, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But then you're going to be truly tested.
What's yours? How's yours read?
The arrogant man thinks that all he knows when he sits by himself in a corner, but never what answer to make he knows when others with questions come.
So you think you know everything, and then you have that one pupil or that one outlying individual that comes to you in front of a crowd of folk and puts you on the spot with a very directed, intricate question and stumps you. There's your test. Well, we thought you knew everything. Apparently that's not so.
The key change, mine says the foolish man, yours says the arrogant. Again, the majority of this comes down to the arrogant man, which lends itself to the foolish man, which then becomes the wretched man. So all of them can apply. I've been in this situation where I was the expert, and I was called in to be the expert. I was called in to do a lecture because I was the one who knew. And I have had children, I have had adults, I've had educated and less educated individuals bring forth information that countered what I said or added to what I said or embellished what I said in a way that it made it more than what I originally said. My opportunity then is to either buck it and get my feelings hurt and say, oh, well, that's not so, that's not the way this is, da 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 da. Or to say, that is new to me, I will add that to my cache of knowledge. You must humble yourself in that situation to say, I did not know.
I don't know.
Now I do. And isn't that what acquisition of knowledge is all about?
I'm going to have to dig into, I have to follow up on what you're telling me so that I can verify it, I can confirm it, and I can add it to my repertoire of knowledge.
Need to research that more.
Yeah.
So, in all of this, it is simply to say, I did not know. Now, the ignorant man or woman does not know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they can't learn.
Right. The ignorant.
And the stupid won't learn.
For
Not
the
that they
arrogant-
can't learn, they won't
Right.
learn.
And then you have the arrogant that will refuse to admit that they don't know.
Right, yeah.
Or that maybe they perhaps said they were wrong.
They don't have the ability to admit that they were wrong.
Yeah.
Or the other piece of that is you have the person, and I've been one of those people, that start just pulling stuff out of your backside and throwing it on the table and hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
Trying to cover that lack of knowledge. Yeah, it doesn't work. And those who know you don't know. So all you're doing is continuing to dig a hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to cave in on you. So what we would recommend, we get questions all the time about everything that pertains to being heathen, and we don't know everything. 30 years of my life I've dedicated to this, specifically to this. I don't know. I learn things every day. I seek out knowledge every day. I come to a different understanding because I'm a different human being as my life has progressed. So having read the Havamal 30 years ago, reading it now, and having read it up to this point, I have gained inferences and intelligence based on my life experience that has enhanced my understanding. Right. Not necessarily changed it, but enhanced my understanding of the different stanzas.
Increased your depth of insight.
Exactly.
And I hope truthfully that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when, if and when I go back through this again, and it's one of those pieces of knowledge that you really need to stick to. It's going to affect you differently. Your perception is going to change of each stanza because your life experiences have evolved. Like you said, you're not going to be the same person that you were 10 years ago. Although you're living the same life, you're evolving, you're growing, you're obtaining more knowledge. Now you see things a little bit differently because your experiences have changed.
Well, the only way to grow is to not be stagnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't grow and be stagnant at the same time. It doesn't. You can go into a resting stage, but how long is that going to last?
Right. After a great enlightenment, you do need a period to reflect.
You have to absorb. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to let all of that just sink right into your genes. The foolish man in company does best if he stays silent. No one will know that he knows nothing unless he talks too much. Mm-hmm. The man who knows nothing does not know when he is talking too much.
Retrospectively, I have seen myself to be this person many times. And I didn't know it then. But like I said, as you grow and you evolve and your experience changes, you look back and you reflect to help yourself grow more. I should not have been that person. But I needed to be that person to be who I am now.
That's right.
Everything comes with more. The more informed you are, the more experiences you have, the more enlightened you become to reflect on who you were. And there have been times where I was running at the mouth about something that I thought I knew something about, only to later to find out that
you did not.
No, I didn't. I was like, and confronted with that I didn't know everything about that I did, and I should choose my words more carefully when discussing something, especially if I know a little bit about something. That doesn't mean I know a lot about something.
That's the path of wisdom.
Thorpe says it this way: a foolish man who among people comes had best be silent, for no one knows that he knows nothing. He who previously knew nothing will still know nothing. Talk he ever so much. So I'm going to walk up on a group of people and jump in their conversation and run my mouth like I know something. Like I said, talking out of your backside. You don't. You haven't been involved enough to understand the group conversation, to just show up and think you can join.
And start interjecting your knowledge, whatever that knowledge may be, whether correct or not. You're going to put it out there because it gives you an idea of what status is. Mm-hmm. And what you're seeking is status. What you're seeking is to be accepted by those who have status. And you want to become part of that
want to be included.
group of people.
Yeah.
To be judged among the knowledgeable, if not the wise.
I think the easiest way for me to like encompass this stanza is it's wise of you to stay silent and listen. It's foolish of you to run your mouth and learn nothing.
I would say that's a very fair assessment.
And in the next stanza, it continues at 28.
Would you like to hear what Bellows has to say?
Yeah, let's hear Bellows real quick. Then we'll go to 28.
A witless man, when he meets with men, had best be silent abide. For no one shall find that nothing he knows, if his mouth is not open too much. But a man knows not if nothing he knows when his mouth has been opened too much.
More modern way of saying it is, no one knows you're foolish till you open your mouth. And we've spoken of this in other discussion groups here. The wise, when they come amongst a group of people, will walk in silent and observe. When you are silent, you can listen. And in the listening, you become aware. You get to know who's around you, what they're talking about, what their level of expertise is, what their interests are, whether there's any issues or animosity amongst any group of people. You're observing. You're becoming a watcher. The wise are watchers. The wise will walk into a situation and dissect it to know what's going on. Life experience lends you to that. You can pick up on everything just by being there and observing. Engaging, but observing. Hi, how are you doing? It's good to meet you. But observing. You're not contributing anything till you find where the level of people are. And that pertains to your level of fun, too. You know, you may want to do a certain thing because that's fun to you, but that's not going to fit in this particular setting. So you're going to hold that back. Mm-hmm. You're going to engage where it's correct to engage. If some people are into this particular thing and you're into this particular thing, then you're going to find those people out and you're going to invite them to join you, or you're going to join them because now you have something to offer to them. So it's layered, as all of the stanzas are. There's many different ways to look at it and to take from it that knowledge which is there for us, that wisdom that is there for us. And the reason why I say 28 lends itself is because it speaks to that directly. Wise that man seems who knows how to question and how to answer as well. The sons of men cannot keep secret what's already going around. So again, if you walk into the situation with wisdom, with life experience, with knowledge, you're going to pick up everything that's going on in that room and know what to stay away from and what to get involved in. Now, we've all been to these big settings where lots of diverse people are. And we tend not to have any issue engaging with anybody. It doesn't matter who they are.
Right.
It doesn't matter their level of societal acquisition, their acquisition of knowledge, their position in life. It doesn't matter to us because we're equal to anybody. And we can carry on a conversation with pretty much anybody depending on the level of conversation that they're in that we're familiar with. Because there's things, you're talking about building a bridge, I'm not going to contribute much to that. Except I like to drive across it. Maybe be the first one, that would be a status thing. But I mean, there's things that, I can contribute to and things that I can't.
Right.
But there's also things that I'm wise enough to say, I would like to know more about that. I have nothing to offer, so I'm going to be silent and listen. The whole concept of being silent and listen is to take away your ignorance, take away your arrogance, and settle yourself in the humility of the moment to say, I don't know, I would like to know. Mm-hmm. And that's an honorable thing to do. That's an honorable place to be.
He thinks himself wise who can ask questions and converse also. Conceal his arrogance no one can, because it circulates amongst men. Your arrogance will be noticed. Your arrogance will be talked about amongst others. There will be no praise that comes from it, because everybody, after being told, if they had not seen it already, is going to look for it. Now you've given me a reason, someone's given me a reason to look for your faults, to look for your arrogance. Find out for myself, is what they say is true. And if it's not, good on you. But if it is, you're one friend less or one friend ungained.
And you had spoken earlier about gateways or gatekeepers. There are a lot of people, when you're in a deeper association, especially with multiple individuals involved, that are going to either welcome you into that next level or keep you back from it. Mm-hmm. Based on their one interaction with you, their one perception of you, you're not going to be included in what's coming next.
Yeah.
That may benefit you, but because of your portrayal of your ignorance, your arrogance, your foolishness, because of that one interaction with that one individual, well, you just hit a gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be included in what's coming next. Now, in the old days, 1,000 years ago, when I was assembling a crew to go a Viking, then there may be a room for that kind of arrogance. There may be room for that type of foolishness. There may be room for that type of acquisition of accomplishment, for being a great warrior, but did you risk everyone's life in the course of being a great warrior? Were you successful when you came? Were you lucky? All these evaluations I have to go through on you as an individual to join my crew. You could endanger my crew by your recklessness.
Yeah.
So knowing who you are and knowing what other people say of you, if people say of you, then it's incumbent upon me to know if that's true or not. It may have been one time that you were that person, but that's what everyone perceives you as being.
Right.
And this is spoken of in the Havamal, to give those individuals an opportunity to sit with you so that you can gain more individual knowledge of that individual. Because it is individual, one-on-one, in order to really get to know someone. Because we're not always the same in a group setting. But when you talk to someone one-on-one, when you're looking them right in the eyes, you get a better understanding of who they really are, rather than how they're perceived to be. Mm-hmm. And perception is a part of these stanzas. You know, we're talking about the foolish man, the witless man, the wretched man. But that's perception, based on performance. Right. What did they do?
Right. You might not see my actions or chosen words or how I speak as foolish. You might get a good laugh at it. Oh, he's funny. But you, who have seen the exact same event, this guy's full of shit. I'm pretty sure I don't want him on my crew. I would prefer that he not sit amongst us when we have this conversation. He get pushed aside. So, again, you're right. Perception has so much to do with, how you see the world and how the world sees you.
Yeah. Because it's both ways.
Yeah, definitely. 29. He utters too many futile words, who is never silent. A garrulous tongue, if it would be not checked, sings often to his own harm. I gotta say, I have been this person too. Back to that, the uneducated speaker, like you just throwing stuff out there that you think you're making yourself look good. You think you're making yourself fit in, you're finding your place amongst this group, when you're actually belittling yourself in the eyes of others and exiling yourself from the crowd that you want to be involved in.
Yeah, I can give you a recent example of that. Mine says, this is from Larrington, quite enough senseless words are spoken by the man never silent. A quick tongue, unless its user keeps watch on it, often talks itself into trouble. We recently, a couple years ago, we did an event, you were there, where we teamed up with a group of airsoft participants. It was good venues, it was good for us to do. Late in the evening, on the first night, I started telling stories. And Brother Torbjorn was there. And I was talking to a couple of individuals, and pretty soon there was a dozen or more individuals all sitting around, and I was conversing, which is what I do. There was an individual who claimed to be someone, claimed to have knowledge, claimed to be one of us, a heathen man with knowledge, experience. He was looked up to by those people with him. He started into a story that immediately was told incorrectly. One of our sagas, one of my favorite sagas. And I listened to him for a bit, gave him his opportunity to be on stage. He was looking to have that opportunity. He wanted to have the spotlight on him. He got into maybe 3 passages of the saga, and I stopped him. I said, I seldom ever do this. One, because I don't want to diminish the individual telling the story. But everything that you have spoken of with this story, which is one of my favorite stories, is incorrect. And I cannot allow you to continue with it. Now that embarrassed that individual, because he thought he was somebody. He had put himself up on a pedestal. He wanted the spotlight on him. And I just shut it off. Not because I was being mean or vindictive or cruel in any way, shape, or form, but because I cannot allow mistruths to be spoken about that which is the most important thing in my life, our way. I cannot allow it. I can't allow that to go forth. Usually what I would do is allow them to continue, and then I would tweak it and add a little bit of this and a little bit of that to get it back on track. A little embellishment. I'd get it back on track to what the actual story is, or the meaning of the story, or the importance of the story, however it's going to be portrayed. But with this individual, because of his arrogance, number one, I knew he was arrogant. I knew he had an issue. I knew he wanted to have the spotlight on him. I allowed him to have it, to see who he was. He was a foolish man. He was an arrogant man. And at the end of it, he became a wretched man, because these people, which were about half of those in attendance, had come with him and had seen him as this individual at this level. And when I got done, he was an individual at this level. But he couldn't see the truth of it. He took it as a slight. Everything I said was true. Everything I said was from the source material, because I know the source material. But he had none of that. It was a story he'd heard from someone else and had told him, and that person got it wrong. He never knew the original source material. And I asked him that question, if he had ever written the original source material. And he said no.
Then how can you know?
Then how can you tell that? How can you speak with authority when it's a story of a story of a story? Not even a comic book story or a Marvel movie story. It's just completely wrong. Everything that you said was wrong.
It's that old telephone game. Hearsay, 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 and then eventually it's totally different.
So the responsibility we have is being who we are, knowing this, knowing our history, knowing our heritage, knowing our traditions, knowing our lore, and having presented it, not just amongst ourselves, but to the wider world that we live in. We will not allow that to come forth. We won't. If we don't know, but we know it's not right, then we'll say, that doesn't sound right to me. I can't tell you exactly what isn't right, but I know that that's not right. I, on the other hand, will tell you it's not right, and I'll tell you where it's not right, because I am on that pedestal. I have been put up there, not because I sought it, but because it was brought to me, so that I could share that which has come to me, through me, for you. That's what this is about. But for those who seek to stand up on that pedestal or put themselves on that pedestal and speak mistruths or completely butcher one of our sacred truths, one of our sacred stories, that's not going to be allowed.
No.
That foolish man needs to shut up.
And it is within us to make sure that he's aware, that he knows now that you are wrong.
Well, this comes to the point of confrontation.
Yeah.
Now we come to the point of confrontation. I cannot let that go gently. I cannot prop you up and say, yeah, it's a good story. However, after the fact, let me tell you what you got wrong. No, I had to stop it right then and there. This cannot go forward. This is all wrong, and it cannot be allowed.
Yeah. How does Bellows say it? 28.
Why shall he seem who well can question? Oh wait, no, we're on 29. Often he speaks, who never is still, with words that win no faith. The babbling tongue, if a bridle it find not, oft for itself sings ill.
With words that win no faith.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
And we should know it. When we hear this, when we hear, as I just pointed out in my example, when we hear those words misspoken, it is incumbent upon us to be the gate watchers, to be the warders, to be the guardians. We have to speak up, because otherwise ignorance goes forward. Biggest problem we have right now is not that we have a lack of information. It's that a lot of the information we have has been changed, has been queered, has been manipulated to serve a purpose of other individuals that have no spiritual affinity for our word. It means nothing to them. It's just a way to make a dollar.
It's an act.
To put a print on a t-shirt, to sell a movie, to sell a book. But they have no depth of understanding, no attachment to our word. And that's a problem for me.
It should be a problem for all of us.
I can overcome it when it's in front of me. But when it's at a distance and it's in the broader realm, well, I can only nibble at that misinformation. And it's there. And it's all over us. And the movies that come out, which I'm in favor of the movies, I'm in favor of the television shows, I'm in favor of all of it. Because as a gatekeeper, I like to have the gate open all the time.
Yeah.
I'd never lock the gate. I never close the gate. I want you to come in. That way I can talk to you along the way about what is and isn't the truth of our way. What is or isn't correct.
A guide,
a lot of
not
those
a guard.
things in the media can, help people discover it.
Yes.
And then if they then want to decide to be on a quest for more, then this is the reality of it. This is the Hollywood, and this is the reality of it.
And a piece to that is, you're right, because you have to have that influence, that small piece of awakening to pique your interest, to dig for more knowledge.
To know the next. To know the next.
Where did this come from? How did we get here? What was the course of events?
Yes. And that's the beauty of the Havamal. Everything that we have spoken of tonight and in the other episodes that we've brought forth talks about the common sense truth of every stanza, where it applies to you in life, and how you can overcome those things when you recognize them for what they are. All of this is about awareness. All of these stanzas are about awareness. Every single one of them. And the use of common sense. Awareness and use of common sense. It's not about knowing. It's about knowing when not to. When not to be a fool. When to accept your truth and your reality. No one of us is brought into this world knowing everything. No one of us, including our gods and goddesses. No one of them knows everything. There is no omnipotent, omniscient God or goddess within our pantheon of gods.
Right.
They are all still seeking, just as we are. That's why when we're on this path, when we're on the Odenic path specifically, it's the path of wisdom. It's seeking knowledge, having life experience, leading to wisdom. All of it is about the acquisition of wisdom, to be wise, to live a good life in this world, and to share our experiences with others. We all gain from our shared experiences. I've had so many more wonderful times being with you, my brothers, than I have on my own. You know, my experiences with my family are different, but my experiences with my brothers, which I sought, I consciously went out to find brothers. I found you early on. I found you not long after. The experiences we've had as brothers have been some of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Even though this has come in the latter stages of my life, they had been some of the most specifically intense and rewarding experiences that I've ever had. And I have shared so much of my life experience with you that wasn't of you, but you became part of because you were of me and in my life. Mm-hmm. So you found a good woman. We always wanted you to find a good woman. You developed a family. We always wanted you to have that anchor, to have that family. We wanted those things for you because that's part of your maturation process. Become the best of who you are. Not to change you, but you change anyway.
Right.
It wasn't the intent to change you, but you change in the course of going through your changes.
It's not the conscious
it's just the way
change.
it is. But it's a good change.
Yeah.
It's a maturation. You know, it's become the better you.
With knowledge comes change, and
yeah.
You know, you can't be stagnant and change and gain knowledge.
And with wisdom, you understand the changes that you've gone through and how it benefits your life.
If you refuse to live, then you cannot learn.
No.
And if you cannot learn, you cannot grow. And if you cannot grow, you cannot evolve.
And you cannot live. Life is about evolution. Now, it's not always pleasant.
No.
Earthquakes create a lot of damage, but they also bring forth land where there was no land before.
Right.
So everything in the Havamal is going to tell us these things. They're going to introduce these things to us. How to live a better life. How to be a better human being. Development of character. Which, and this comes up all the time, the 9 noble virtues are taken from the Havamal.
They're not an ancient thing.
No.
They are a modern interpretation,
Yes.
a modern gathering of traits and virtues that are described.
Inspired by.
Yeah.
Inspired by. This is our continuance. The 9 noble virtues are a continuance. The Vevesser is a continuance. The Aegis-Halmer is a continuance. These are continuance. I have completions to the Norse myths that have come to me in my visions. This is a continuance. Where do you think the stories came from originally? Somebody was given knowledge that wasn't available before. This is continuance. This is the heathen way. Now, this isn't every path of the heathen way, but it is the heathen way in its totality. To say that Uthin is only the god of the Norse takes away who Uthin is.
Yeah.
To say that the pantheon of gods that we honor are only for the northern pantheon of people,
Then we wouldn't be here.
then this doesn't apply. We are just another little religious grouping of people. No, we are the totality of humanity. Regardless of your country or continent of origin, if these words ring true to you, then you are of the folk.
Yeah.
You understand the truth that we are bringing forth. That is a human truth, not something specific only to those of Northern European descent.
Example for you, real quick, and I'll let you get in after this. I had a comment on the Facebook page from one of the later stanzas that I've been posting. The comment simply was, "Sounds like the Jewish God." That's fine. The Jewish God, the Abrahamic God, makes sense to most people who follow that faith. Now it's common sense and a reflective and accurate similar common sense from a different faith, from a different deity. Who are you to say that it's right or wrong? So what if it sounds like the Jewish God? That's your perception.
Does that make it any less true?
Doesn't make it any less true.
And that's your limitation. That's you created a barrier to acquisition of knowledge and the spoken wisdom of a people. What we say is that wisdom has no borders and is spoken in every tongue.
Mm-hmm.
To eliminate, to separate yourself from wisdom acquisition,
To gatekeep it.
shows me that you are not of the wise. The wise will seek knowledge everywhere. The wise will seek experience every opportunity, and wisdom will grow from that knowledge and acquisition of experience. So to separate yourself from that makes you one of the foolish ones.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you one of the ignorant ones. It makes you one of the wretched ones. I am heathen. I am of Northern European ancestry. But I seek knowledge, I seek experience from every human being that has ever lived on the face of this earth, because I have found wisdom in children that were lacking in the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the truth.
You had something?
Well, yeah, just to touch on people that want to try and gatekeep and try to say that this is only for certain people and this and that. I always like to say that it's the all father, not the some father.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's for everyone. If you were called, if the God's called you, the God's called you. It doesn't matter where you come from, what sex you are, what nationality you are. None of that matters.
Nope.
If that's where your heart is pushed, if that's where you're being pulled to go on this journey, then by all means you are welcome. It's those that want to try to keep others out, especially neo-Nazis and white supremacists. I mean, they all can just
and that's that selective gatekeeping.
Yeah, I mean that goes against everything that you're going to read in a Havamal anyway.
You can't be here. You can't do this. You can't learn this. This isn't for you. That crap can get out the door.
Yeah,
quite honestly.
Yeah.
The gods don't seek us. It is us that have to put ourselves in a position to seek the gods.
You have to make yourself available to it. The gods are there whether we're with them or not.
Right.
The gods are on their path whether we join them or not. I don't care what your beliefs are. If you're a heathen, if you say you're a heathen and you're a neo-Nazi, white supremacist, whatever, there's a path for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a path for you. That's your path. You're welcome to it. Doesn't mean that you're not a heathen. Heathen is heathen. You can define it and separate it any way you want to, but then we become Christians with all these different denominations and sects. We're heathen, period. Whether you follow the path of Ostru or Odinist or Theodist or whatever it may be, doesn't change the fact that it's the heathen way.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. Do you really think that the Berserkers and the Ulfheidners got along with the Hirsers and the Vikings?
Right.
No, they did not. They didn't like them. They were crude, crass individuals, loud and obnoxious, smelled most of the time, didn't bathe. They didn't want to be around these elite warriors, didn't want to be around these people, but they saw the necessity of their way in battle. Mm-hmm. So they tolerated them. Did they invite them to their homes? No.
No.
Did they want them to go to their child's birthday party?
No.
Did they want them to go on long journeys with them across the ocean? No. They can have their own boat. But when we showed up to fight, they were welcome in the front line. No one took that away from them. No. How is that different from today? I don't welcome neo-Nazis and white supremacists and those people who say no one can be except me. I don't welcome them into my everyday life. But I welcome them when I meet them along the way, because I will learn from them, and hopefully, on my part, I will give them something that may tweak their perspective. My gift to them is my experience, my knowledge, my wisdom. Mm-hmm. How they perceive it, how they take it is totally up to them. Will I spend time with them? No. But will I walk with them? Yes. Because that is my responsibility as an elder amongst the heathen folk. I will not push them away. I will not say you're not welcome. But you're not welcome in my home. You're not welcome in my everyday life. But we step onto the field of battle, you are welcome. And if you want to lead the charge, you go right for it.
Right.
I will still defend you if I'm close to you. But when we're done,
we go our separate ways.
we go our separate ways.
Let's move on to stanza 30. For a gazing stock, no man shall have another, although he come a stranger to his house. Many a one thinks himself wise, if he is not questioned, and can sit in a dry habit.
That's
It's a little tough. Thorpe uses some tricky words.
A little different. This is Larrington. Into a laughing stock, no man should make another, though he comes on a visit. Many a man seems wise if he isn't asked questions, and he manages to lurk unscathed. So, you walk into an assembly of men and women. You look as you look. You don't speak. People make judgments based on your appearance. As soon as you open your mouth, you remove all doubt. The foolish man's considered wise until he opens his mouth and removes all doubt. But you shouldn't make someone into a laughingstock just because they enter into the room. You should give everyone that
courtesy,
level respect as a human being to a human being. All too often this happens. And as our brother John Torstig pointed out, he often invites those people that seem the less attractive, the less welcome. He'll invite them to sit next to him just because he wants to glean something from them. Mm-hmm. I'm much too arrogant for that. But I welcome his viewpoint on it, because all of us have our own particular idiosyncrasies about how we gather people to us. You gather people to you that I've never wanted around me, but when they were with you, they were great. You've done the same thing. Mm-hmm. I've done the same thing. We've brought people into our midst that we didn't necessarily gravitate to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we also were responsible for the outcome of bringing those individuals in.
There's also been a couple of scenarios where we have traveled together as brothers to go meet others. Where we walk into an experience where we have to stick together in a way, and 2 pairs of eyes, 3 pairs of eyes, yep. 2 pairs of ears, 3 pairs of ears. We listen, we see, we don't know these people. We were invited, though we don't know you. But we have to arrive, listen, see, judge. Is this the right place for us? Is this where we should be? Are these the people that we want around us? Do we connect well with them? Should we be here?
And other times where we've been announced before arriving, mm-hmm. where people had an opinion of us, good or bad, but they had an opinion of us without knowing us, based on what other people have said. Specifically you. But then, once we get there and we all start laughing, and we're all having a good time, then somebody will come and say, I heard this thing about you guys. I haven't seen any of that. So, well, that's because you didn't hear that from us. Right. You heard that from people that were with us, that had a perception of the things we did without knowing what we really did. Yeah. So the stories are told.
How's Bellows?
Bellows.
30.
In mockery no one a man shall hold, although he fare to the feast. Wise seems one oft, if not he is asked, and safely he sits dry-skinned.
So, mine says laughing stock. Yours says...
In mockery no one a man shall hold.
In mockery.
Yep.
And laughing stock, same thing. Mockery, laughing stock.
Gazing stock.
Okay.
Everybody point and look.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I did pick up, and one of the ones we didn't read was Bray, and the second line, Bray says, though he come as a guest for a meal, Thorpe, although he come a stranger to his house, Bellows, although he fare to the feast. It's a welcoming kind of portrayal that you come to a place that you're unfamiliar with, but you are still welcomed. And until you make yourself a spectacle, you're not.
Yeah, because 31 says the same thing.
Let's move to that one. How does it
31.
read?
Wise that man seems who retreats when one guest is insulting another. The man who mocks others at a feast doesn't really know whether he's shooting off his mouth amid enemies. So, to start belittling an individual comes to a feast, comes to a gathering of folk. You start laughing at that individual and belittling that individual. Well, then you come to find out that that individual is well loved by everyone who's in that assembly. And you just made a big mistake, because now you've created enemies with all the people that are there.
You have made yourself the gazing stock. You have made yourself the mockery.
Well, I think it goes to say with all these stanzas that you should not be foolish and think before you speak. And not gather attention to someone else, for now maybe the attention might be on you.
Yeah.
And have the adverse effect.
Every one of these stanzas speaks of the foolish man, the arrogant man, the unwise man, the ignorant man.
These are all things that we have been,
or we have observed,
or we will be. But it seems that all of these stanzas are pointing at the instances where you should just be aware, which goes back to stanza 1.
Everything that we have spoken of tonight and what we have spoken of from the very beginning of these discussions speaks of being aware. Being aware. As you walk into the environment, be aware. As you encounter other people, be aware. Be aware that there's a time and a place for this type of action, to say thank you, to be humble, to be aware that you don't have a seat at the head of the table because you haven't presented yourself in such a way that this would be offered to you. When other people come amongst you, be quiet, be silent, be aware. Let people show themselves to you. Don't assume anything. Your life depends on this. The life of those people with you may depend on this. Or the life you live may be affected by these things. You're not going to die, but now how are you perceived? The ignorant man, the arrogant man, the foolish man, we have all been those people.
Clever thinks
what we are told here is not to be those people.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a thou shalt not in the Abrahamic way, but you should be. Everything that's in the Havamal is you should be.
Well, it's more positive language.
Yeah. Common sense.
It's more of a encouraging verbiage than a discouraging verbiage.
Yeah, with real life experiences. Real life experiences that although 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 years ago or more can be applied to any human being that's ever walked the face of this earth,
in
who's
any
ever
culture,
traveled,
in any culture,
anywhere,
yep,
anywhere. Common sense based on heritage, history, culture, which still applies today.
It's timeless truth.
Absolutely.
For the human experience.
For another translation, Thorpe says it this way, and we're on 31. Clever thinks himself the guest who jeers a guest. If he takes to flight, knows it not certainly he who prats at meat, whether he babbles amongst foes. It's almost like like you said, the newcomer comes into the group or into the crowd, a guest in the house, and all of a sudden you've got this one or few members of those that are there already that point and laugh, or point and diminish, and say, oh, look who just showed up. Here we go. Now we got to deal with this guy.
Just as a buffoon.
Yeah.
You know, he's got whatever kind of clothes that just don't apply to the style of the individuals that are already there. I've certainly been in places where I was around a lot of When I had long hair as a young man and gone into places where everyone was dressed as a short-haired jock, 1950s type of people, I've gone into situations where I was the clean-cut one and they weren't the clean-cut ones. When I was in the military, I was clean-cut, and going to groups of people that looked like they were from the Leonard Skinner concert, even though I'd been to Leonard Skinner concerts, and I was those people, but they judged me based on how I looked, not who I was, but how I looked. And it created either obstacles to overcome or opportunities or obstacles, one or the other. That's what I was presented with. To always have gone in, and we've spoken of this many times, we have a tendency, because of our life experiences, because of our time spent in pubs and bars and nightclubs and things like that, when we go in, we are looking the place over, we're looking the people over, we're observing to see where conflict might arise. I'm measuring every man in that room up to see whether or not I can take them or not. Even though I'm not going to get in anything, it's there with me. For me, it was a San Francisco City thing. You're of an urban development as well. You not as much so, but you had the same country thing.
Yeah, I'm country.
None of that changes.
Being situational awareness and observing potential threats, or potential, people that we might want to talk to and have a good time. Assessing the situation for what it is. And it's just something that, for me, moving here over 20 years ago and going and not knowing anyone but my immediate family, to go out and adventure to try and find people, army of one, and just trying to see where I fit in and try not to get my ass handed to me by five guys, or whatever. So you kind of have to. I mean,
you have to put yourself amongst risk.
Yeah, there's without risk, there's no reward, and I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But you have to assess the situation, and I've always tried to, when conversing with other people of different backgrounds and education and varying vocabulary levels, I've always tried to choose my words to where everyone in the conversation can understand what I'm saying and can put forth their own ideas without feeling like diminished.
A mutual
in
discussion.
Any way. And I've often found other people that are more arrogant, that are joining the conversation, that try to belittle people. I want to gravitate, and now I'm going to try and belittle you in front of these, because you're causing this person embarrassment for no other reason than your own enjoyment, when we're all here to have a good time. And
right.
That's a guest picking on a guest. That's something that you all have been in my
We've all dealt with it,
bonfires.
because we've all had
You've been
guests in our
fires,
house.
And I'm a host in my yard, and people are welcome, and the last thing I want is someone trying to make someone else feel unwelcome in my yard, especially their first time there.
That's right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't hassle a guest
of a guest
right. a guest of mine.
Right.
No.
This is, I think that's like the realest part of this. I invite you to my home, along with multiple others that I have invited to my home, because I, the host, want to partake in your company. It is not your place to speak ill of another, of my guests, in my house. If you have problems with that person, you deal with it away from my house, or else you end up belittling yourself and lowering yourself beneath the rest of us.
Yeah, where's your level of control?
Yeah.
Which, again, comes down to being the wise one. You have to know when. I again, we like to give personal examples. There was a time, not maybe a dozen years ago, we were at a gathering. There was an individual that all of us had issues with. And it was a situation where I could have dealt with the issue of that individual in the house of the person that invited us. But by doing so, I would have damaged the house. And that would have damaged the relationship. So my need to exert my presence on this individual was not as strong as my respect for the hospitality given to me by the individuals whose home it was. If you can't separate yourself from that situation and see what is the right thing to do, then you cannot be considered amongst the wise. Because you don't create a positive from this, you create a negative from this.
This is like a situation.
And it's not fair to the individual whose home it is, to the individuals who are there as guests having a good time, for you to completely, and we've been in this situation where we're here and all of a sudden we're here.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with the situation. Well, we may recover from that, or maybe our adrenaline charge will be so high that we're not going to be able to recover from that. But it damn sure changed the dynamic of the situation and the environment that we were in. So you have the opportunity. It's a one-on-one. You can escalate or de-escalate. You can do one or the other. Depending on your pride, depending on your arrogance, depending on your need to prove yourself, will dictate what that decision is going to be.
I feel like this is a circumstance of the enemy of my friend, while in my friend's house, must be considered a friend.
Or tolerated.
Yeah, tolerated. Yeah,
Just
tolerated.
tolerated.
Yeah. We don't like each other, but this mutual acquaintance of ours, this mutual friend of ours, a person we both love, though you and I have issues with each other, we are here at his invitation.
Yeah.
We put that aside for now.
We see this in a broader context now. We see this as Asgard, sacred ground. We know the situation of the Jotun who rebuilt the walls of Asgard. We know that the manipulation came forth that changed his ability to honor the agreement. He could not honor the agreement because the situation was changed outside of his control. If that occurrence had not come forth, then he could have finished his obligation and been rewarded completely.
Yeah.
Because it was sacred oaths that were spoken. But because of what happened, the sacred oath in the sacred ground was compromised. This was never forgotten by the Jotnars. It was never forgotten by the Frost Giants that this came forth, that this was a lie, that you lied to us, that you deceived us, that you broke your troth with us. That's an important thing. You give your word, you honor your word, period. It's a sacred oath.
Yeah.
Period. That's it.
You gave your word.
Don't put yourself in a position. Don't put yourself in a position that you cannot honor your word. Don't do it. Don't speak sacred oaths. Don't diminish guests in another man or woman's home. Don't compromise hospitality. Don't do these things, because these are the essence of who we are. This is who we are as people. These things, if these things are not important to us, then who are we?
Yeah. The other side to that coin, if you would, is if in the event you have prior knowledge that this quote-unquote enemy of yours will be at your friend's house that you have also received an invitation to, and you know a situation will arise from it, don't go. Because your commitment to that friendship or that brotherhood to the person who has invited you to your home, you and I have had a similar instance where either you or he have declined the invitation because either you or he knew that the other would be there, and that the invitation or the friendship that that either myself and you share or myself and he share, it would be inappropriate in the eyes of both of you that you would both be there.
Yeah, for the eventual outcome of the evening. However, it is also incumbent upon the host to know who to invite.
Right, it's very true.
To their gathering.
Very true.
Because if you put two individuals who are strong-willed, strong-minded, and capable in the same environment, and there is no bend between them, there's going to be an eruption.
Right.
And that becomes your responsibility as the host.
And as the host, you should be aware of that.
It would have been
ahead of
better
time.
to not have invited both of them, knowing the potential consequences and the egos involved. Now, that's the key thing, is knowing your people.
Yeah,
whether they're a
definitely.
foolish person, an arrogant person, a witless person. The arrogant person may be not foolish, but may do foolish things. That doesn't make them witless.
No.
So again, all of this, which is written, interpreted by the different ones who translated
it, right.
they're all looking at it from a different perspective based on who they are as human beings. Who they are. That's where they got that word and twisted it or changed it to be a word that means more than this, but can only be defined for the sake of translation into this word. They can't put a paragraph with it. It's a word. This is as close as we can get to the meaning, but that's not the same meaning as we have today with today's dictionary and what potentially the word could mean.
Right.
So everything that we call here in the Havamal as witless, as foolish, as arrogant, all of those meaning the same thing or intended to mean the same thing, don't mean the same thing.
No.
They all have a little twist to them,
right, yeah.
that says a little bit more about that human being and who Othin is actually talking about. Who is he actually referring to? Who is he actually using as an example to get this message across, which is an important message, or in our overall world of seeing things, it wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be here for us to read and discuss. It wouldn't be here unless it was important. Now that's on the spiritual thing. This is on that spiritual level. That's on that meant to be, or weird. We're meant to speak of these things. We're meant to bring up this particular subject and to go into depth about it because of its importance overall to all people that are listening or will listen to this.
Now,
this
you
podcast.
have said this to me directly, and you have said this to a handful of my brothers, and I have witnessed you say it. These words were meant for you to hear.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So let's move on to the next one, 32. Many men are mutually well disposed, yet at table will torment each other. That strife will ever be, guest will guest irritate. Now again, we're piggybacking on the previous stanza. All right, what happens next? What's this guest going to do to this guest that I have invited both, knowing, well, they have issues with each other? Will I sit them both at my table and feast?
Yeah.
And what will happen in consequence to inviting them both? How does Bellow say it? We're on 32.
Friendly of mind are many men. Till feasting they mock at their friends. To mankind a bane must it ever be when guests together strive. I think it's going to fall down to the to a host when you're inviting guests. That are you going to knowingly invite people that are going to engage each other and have conflict?
Right.
Are you doing that for your amusement? I mean,
You could be.
I mean, you could be, but then you have a responsibility as a host to the people that you invite that it is a safe environment for them to come to.
Know your guests.
Yeah, yes, know your guests, know their temperaments and their personalities, and ensure that everyone that you are inviting to a guest is treated as a guest.
And be there your friends and kin know their enemies.
Yes. And that is a great responsibility of being a host, is the responsibility you have to the people that you invite. You have that. You invite someone just to see what happens. You're damaging that relationship, and it might not even be a good relationship. And now you have nefariousness that you're bringing. You're inviting trouble.
Conflict into your house.
You're inviting trouble, and to harken back to something that my father said, don't go looking for trouble because you're going to find it.
Or it will find you regardless.
You're going to find you. And you're inviting that, especially if you're a host. I mean, that's into your home. You're inviting something into your home that you probably shouldn't, because it's going to come back on there.
Yeah.
This is the basement or the base of the Havamal. What your father said. Words of wisdom based on his experiences of life. Knowledge that he's acquired, becoming wisdom that he passed on to you. That's what the Havamal is. A father sitting down with his son or friend or relation and passing on words of wisdom. This is Uthan doing this to all of his children. All of his children. Larrington says, many men are devoted to one another. We are. We're devoted to one another. You're important to me, I'm important to you. I mean, we share our lives together. And yet they fight at feasts. We fought.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You guys have fought.
Yeah.
Came close to fighting. Amongst men, there will always be strife. We're always challenging each other.
This is a given.
We're just men, being men. We're talking crap to each other. That's what we do. Pick on each other, tease each other,
put each other
fight
down.
with each other. Yeah, talk shit about each other. That's just the way we are. But it's all in good fun. We don't mean any of it. Or we do.
Most times.
Sometimes we do. Amongst men, there will always be strife. Guest quarreling with guest. Now, quarreling can be on several levels. Mm-hmm. There's the quarreling of let's laugh and joke with each other and talk shit. There's the quarreling that pushes the line, and maybe you shouldn't have said that. Mm-hmm. And then there's quarreling that crossed the line. No,
and then and then you result in the physical.
If you know in advance, as the host, that that's probable, you made a mistake, or you did it intentionally because you had a desirable outcome. Mm-hmm. Regardless of how the outcome is, you benefited from it in some way, shape, or form. That's manipulation. And that's not what brothers do with each other. We don't manipulate each other.
No.
If it happens because it was an accidental outcome of an unintended event, which isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it settles things, and it was meant to be. Again, we follow our weird, it was meant to be, so let's deal with it. Or, it wasn't meant to be, but it's good that it came about because now we have an outcome. Now we have a solution to an issue. It had to come to a head. I facilitated it, not out of any malicious intent, but I wanted to get a resolution to this issue.
And sometimes that...
Now, we've done this.
Yeah, we've had what we would call the sit-downs.
It always end up well, but...
Yeah, sometimes you have to have your brothers handle your shit.
Yeah, definitely. And there have been multiple occurrences where, you know, not necessarily the three of us, but a group of us have agreed there needs to be a sit-down. We need to break this out.
That's right.
We need to put it on the table, resolve it somehow.
Yeah, this can't go any further
and move
than the
on.
way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has got to come to an end. Yeah.
So moving on to 33. Early meals a man should often take, unless to a friend's house he goes, else he will sit and mope else he will sit and mope, will seem half famished, and can few things inquire.
Well, now, we've all done this, and we have a tendency to say, well, your refrigerator is my refrigerator once I get to your home.
That kind of comes with that open door policy that we share with each other.
Yeah.
But you have to earn that.
Well, it's also a possibility that I've already eaten, or I only had so much food and I don't have anything else to offer you, and now you put me in a bad situation, which means now I'm going to have to go to the store and get you something to eat because you didn't think ahead, because you assumed.
That I'm going here.
Assuming is not necessarily a good thing to do, especially when it comes to brothers. I try always to eat before I go to a gathering, because I don't know if food is going to be available. I will bring something if it is something that fits me to bring something to. If it doesn't, then I won't. I have a tendency to think if I have a woman in my life, she's going to bring food. If it's just me, I'll bring alcohol or other tasty treats. That's been my philosophy of life. It always has been. It always will be. I don't always bring a gift with me, but it is most often that when you come amongst brothers, you want to bring something anyway.
Yeah.
I forgot your gift tonight. Sitting on my damn counter right now. And that's for his birthday.
Right.
Which I couldn't attend because I was sick. So, yeah,
well, I mean,
that's what it's about. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, for me, it's a touch on that. If I'm going to be going somewhere, I always try to eat beforehand because I don't want to assume that there will be anything. If there is something, hey, great, I might not eat a whole lot because I'm going to go. Maybe there's going to be food. There might not be. If I don't have time to eat, or it's been a while, I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to be the first one like, hey, let's order some food. I got some cash.
Or attempt to make arrangements on the way.
Right. Yeah. To be a good guest.
Yeah, there's an incumbent thing.
Don't want to assume to impose the right of the guest in the home.
Because that puts an indirect stress on the host.
Yeah.
Because the host didn't know that you were coming without food.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's a simple thing. Now, then we get into the guzzling. Okay, now we haven't had anything on a belly. We drink too much. Now what happens?
Well, a couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, we can get too loose with our mouth. We can engage in conversation of things that we should have better sense and engage in. Yeah. We can become argumentative
and arrogant,
or we can become ill. Yeah. All of these things lead to negatives. So, again, a common sense approach to visiting friends and family. Friends and family. Because with us, friends are family. That's our way.
Yeah, it's kind of our chosen family.
It is it's a much larger family than what I was born with. I have more brothers now than I've ever had in my life. Ever. At any time in my life. True brothers that I know and they know. So the rest of it comes down to being a good host and being a good guest. Because they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Don't put your host in a situation that's unfair to them. Because you don't know. You don't know. Maybe you haven't seen them in a while. They haven't had a good harvest. They just killed their last pig to feed their family, and now you're showing up. We are told that story in the story of Thor's journey to Jotunheim, when he comes to the thrall or peasant person's home, and they have no food to feed him. He goes, "No problem. I'll slaughter my goats and we'll eat them. Just do this thing for me. Okay, I'm a good host. You're being a good host the best you can be. I'm going to be a good guest." And now everything works out fine until it doesn't.
Now, the piece of that we didn't discuss was being a good guest. The host might be unaware that there is conflict between two of his guests.
Yes.
It is incumbent upon at least one of those guests
informing the
to
host.
make mention to the host, "I will sit at the end of the table because I have conflict with another guest. I do not want to be close to him."
I've had that at fire. You both have been to many of the fires. Have people like, "Hey man, there's this guy and we're kind of like not seeing eye to eye, and I'm gonna go." I've had people tell me that. I'm like, alright. I was like, you don't have to unless you actually.
Why don't you come hang out with me by the grill next to the
you
shed?
can come hang out with me and stuff. Well, dude's gonna come up, and I'm like, something might happen. I was like, well, we have rules. There is no conflict at the fire. If you have beef, you take it across the street. You don't bring that negativity in on my yard.
No.
And around the rest of the guests.
Sacred ground.
Sacred ground.
You got a beef, you go up there and handle it. If you're gonna handle it down here, 5 people are gonna drag you from the yard. That's disrespecting
or more.
the yard. Yeah.
Or more. You don't want to cause that scenario.
Yeah, and like the same thing is like being a good guest. I've had people show up. Hey man, where's the food? You didn't bring any?
Didn't eat ahead of time? This is a bonfire, not a feast.
You didn't ask to think to bring something? No one's brought anything. I'm not. Well, you got to be a good host.
I'm providing the place.
There's fire
and the event,
and there's wood. I mean, if you wanted food, why?
Go get yourself a sausage and bring it back and cook
you can
it
run
out.
down the food line and go get you something.
Right.
But
don't assume.
Yeah, definitely.
The whole concept of this particular stanza is don't assume. Don't put your guest in. Don't put your host in a bad situation. Don't be a bad guest. Be prepared. Again, going back to the first stanza. Before you walk in, before you even leave your house, be aware of the circumstances you're putting yourself into. Be aware.
And now we have this great technology where it's boop. Hey man, do you need me to bring anything?
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
Exert that common courtesy.
And what do you become when you do that? You become the hero. You become the lauded one. You become the praised one. You become the welcome one.
And that action...
Good gods, every time I invite that individual, they always show up with this. Why do we speak so highly of Ivar, our brother?
Yeah.
He was the great gifter. No one asked him to do any of these things.
He did.
But every time he showed up with mead, he showed up with wisdom, he showed up with knowledge, he showed up with gregarity, he was part of everything we did. We laughed, we talked, we joked.
He never left with what he came with.
That's it. Yeah.
And
he was a gift.
He was always the greatest of guests.
Yeah.
34.
And always welcome because of it. Welcome back. All right, 34.
More or less the same.
This is Larrington. It's a great detour to a bad friend's house, even though he lives on the route. But to good friends, the way lies straight, even though he lives far off.
I almost feel like I don't even need to read this because that's so direct, but Thorpe says it long is and indirect the way to a bad friend's home. Though by the road he might dwell on your path, to a good friend's the path lie direct, though he may be far away. Our brother Torbjorn lives far away, 2 hours from some of us, but I would rather spend 2 hours on the road than go 5 minutes up the street to a man I don't respect's home. They use the terminology bad friend. Identically, it's still saying he's a friend. He may not be the best of friends. He may not be the closest of brothers. He's not a bad person. He may not be the best of friends. But I would rather travel longer and harder to be more welcome than to travel shorter distance and be less welcome.
Once you get there, you want to leave.
Yeah.
Once you get to the bad friend's home, you want to leave. You don't want to stand there. Even if it's right next door, you're not going to want to spend any time there. You're not going to go over there voluntarily. And that's what it speaks of. You're a good example. You're a distance from where I live. You're the exact other side of where we live for me to get here. Now, it's not a 2-hour drive, but it's still a way. And there's no easy way to get to this house.
No.
No, there's just no easy way. But there's so many reasons to be here.
And not just for this.
No. But we had that. We had that with the Zed bonfires.
Yeah.
This was our first true gathering of the folk. We were looking for a reason. We had that. We were looking for a place. We found that. We set it up by taking from another place that which made it special, and this was a fire pit, and taking the stones from that fire pit and bringing it back to your place and creating a new fire pit based on the old magic that was contained within the previous fireplace, and then we started our own. Now, those gatherings became legendary. I mean, a lot of the stories told about us came from those gatherings.
And most of them involve a kilt.
Most of them involve a kilt of some type, or lack thereof. But these were gatherings that brought in people from all the different cliques that all of us were associated with, gave them a place to come and see us in our natural environment. It was like going to the savannah of Africa and seeing the lions in their actual habitat. with Vikings in their habitat at Zed's shed.
Yeah.
It was a positive thing that we had that we could offer to those people that we came to know in public. We gave them something private.
Yeah.
Now, we did the same thing later on when we started having the gatherings at Dixie Cavern. We had those people who met us in public, we gave them a private setting. And this was necessary. This was necessary for us to have that.
I agree. It's good to have good friends over. Bad friends don't tend to stay very long. And it works both ways. Like you said, you go to a bad friend's house for a particular reason, you do your business, you don't stay long.
No.
Tonight, brothers, I believe we will end with 35.
Do you want me to read 34?
Yeah, go ahead and read 34 before we jump forward.
Crooked and far is the road to a foe.
That's well spoke.
Although his house beyond the highway be, but wide and straight is the way to a friend, though far away he fare.
The first time I drove to your house, it's not that far. His house is farther. But it felt far because I hadn't been there before.
Oh, the land of fire?
I had not been where the man said, this is a good place. It's the first time you go somewhere,
Always seems the longest.
It always seems the longest. And then you build on the relationship of the host.
And you
then,
see your landmarks.
and,
You start recognizing the landmarks. It shortens the distance to get to that place. Yeah.
And I feel like you're a good friend. I want to be with you when I can. The more often I do it, the shorter the distance becomes.
Yeah. Because of landmarks. You start recognizing where your place is, place and time. This is exactly what we've already talked about. All of these things have already been said in the previous stanza. It's a great detour to a bad friend's house, even though he lives on the route. Could be right down the road from me, but I'm not looking forward.
I'm not going there.
But to a good friend's the way lies straight, even though he lives far off. Now, again, let's consider 1,000 years ago as a baseline, living in Norway. You can't get from here to there by getting in a vehicle and driving down the road. No. You have to outfit a ship, take the ship and sail to that individual's home. And then once you get there, you're going to be there for a couple of days because it's a good distance off, good couple of days just to get there. But you welcomed every second of it because you knew, looking forward, you knew what was waiting for you. This camaraderie, this joy in the moment that you had to be with your brother. I mean, we have that.
Absolutely.
We look forward to it.
Absolutely.
I look forward to tonight. I wanted this to happen. It's one thing that you and I, but now you're the other addition to that. So I was looking forward to all of that we were going to have tonight. And this is a part of everything that we've had since we began. And we've had lots of different people in our lives. Some of them are still with us, some of them are not. Some we go to their homes still on a regular basis, some we do not. This has been the travel, the journey, the path that we've been on. We understand that this is our weird, that this is what's meant to be. We don't question it. We learn from it. We adapt to it. But all of us have gone through this transformation of saying that was the place I usually would go. We have a brother that his home was the place to go. We don't do that anymore. You moved from the place that you had your gatherings. We don't do that anymore. Your place has become one of the places we come to on a regular basis. But for a
time, it wasn't because I was
you
4
weren't
hours.
ready for it. You weren't ready for it.
And the distance was too great.
But when you came back and you created this became, at a distance, became the place we look forward to coming to and to have our gatherings. At one time it was my place, but then that changed, and now it's not my place anymore to be that gathering place. So, and then what we were doing in those gathering places has changed. So originally when we started all of this, our whole intent was to gather heathens, was to find other heathens. That was our whole intent. All the festivals and events that I did with Vikings of the Valley was intended just to find you, to get out in my gear, to find folk, to wear this and have people find this because they saw me and they said, that's who I am. How can we get together?
Right.
That's how all this began. What we have now is we've all gone through our levels of maturity. We've all been that individual who is responsible for and to themselves. We've been that individual who has been responsible to and for another. And now, for all of you, you're in that position to be responsible to and for your community, that wider group of people that are you're responsible to and you're responsible for. And that's where we are right now. That's what all this is about, to do the podcast, to do the different pages and groups that we have on Facebook, to do the public events that we do and we continue to do and add to. It's still the intent has been to attract heathen folk, to give them an option, give them a reality. You see so much of this online. You see it in the movies, you see it in the television shows, you see aspects of being heathen, being a Viking, but to be heathen, to be those people who did that which we call Viking, to go a Viking. Everything that we've done to this point has led us to this. That's our weird. This is what's important. We want to bring the words of the High One, the words of Uthin, the words of our people, the common sense to the people, to all people. And if you find yourself in it, if you find yourself awakening to the truth that you are heathen, that's what we're looking for. That's the whole reason to do any of the things that we're doing right now.
There was a point in time where I didn't know what that path was, but the door was open for me to begin my journey down that path. Now,
and left open.
And now, 12, 13 years later, I am the one escorting you on the path. Now, well, maybe not escorting, but walking with you on the path, making sure that the door is open for you to walk down that path if you so choose.
That's right.
You're holding the door open for those coming behind you.
Gatekeepers. But we're not warding the gate.
We're not shutting the door.
No, we're not warding the gate to keep people out.
We're not
We're holding it open to allow you
We got to
in.
make sure that door stays open.
Yeah.
Last on our last episode, we kind of summarized with know when it's time to go, know when it's time to finish, and I think we will do the same here.
I reminds me of Kenny Rogers. Got know when to hold 'em,
Know when to fold them.
Well, that's the last stanza then.
No. This is the last stanza for this evening. A guest should depart and not always stay in one place. The welcome becomes unwelcome if he too long continues in another's house.
Or Larrington, a man must go, he must not remain a guest always in the same place. The loved man is loathed if he sits too long in someone else's hall.
Forth shall one go, nor stay as a guest, in a single spot forever. Love becomes loathing if long one sits by the hearths in another's home.
And with this, we would actually ask that you interpret this yourself, because it's simply stated, it's easily understood. Not all of them are. But if you have the opportunity to sit with brothers, sisters, family, kin, and discuss such things, you should do so. Until next time, Skull.
Skulls.